Hello and welcome to Outside Xbox. You're watching Show of the Week. I'm Mike.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Andy, what did we say about you playing Pokemon Go?
I don't know, like do it more or something, something like that.
No, we had to confiscate your phone, remember?
Yeah.
And your secret second phone, and secret phones 3 through 9.
Yeah, that was an expensive summer. Anyway, it's not Pokemon Go, Grandad. This is Harry Potter Wizards Unite, which is completely different.
Is it?
Yes, Mike. Instead of Pokestops, you have inns, see, and greenhouses. Instead of gyms, you have fortresses. Instead of Pokemon, you have magical creatures. It's completely different.
I see.
Yes, and instead of spending real money on Poke Coins, you can spend real money on gold. Which reminds me, can I have the corporate credit card?
We don't have a corporate credit card.
We do now. Several, in fact.
All right, give me that. Get off my...
Now who will contain the magical threat to several very specific locations in London and Brighton?
I'm sure they'll cope. How about we help a city that actually needs our help? Like Oakmont City from The Sinking City.
Well, what's wrong with that?
It's sinking.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
All right, so it's not actually sinking.
What?
More to the point, the
Been
water's
betrayed.
coming up, which makes it feel like it's sinking because the levels of water are rising.
I mean, it's technically going under the water, isn't
Yes.
it? Which is what sinking means.
Exactly, yeah. But it's not physically
They're
moving
technically
downwards.
correct. The best kind of correct.
But yeah, basically, it's a Lovecraftian story in this city called Oakmont in Massachusetts, because it's always in Massachusetts. Massachusetts, creepiest state in America, apparently.
Yep. Cape Cod.
Yeah,
Some fish
terrifying.
But yeah, this city's got sort of bigger problems than the fact that it's underwater.
Yeah.
Have you seen those fish with the legs?
The wandering
Horrible
fish monster
Yeah,
things.
don't.
Terrifying.
No, it was a rat. It was a rat with like
Well, that
crab
was
legs.
also terrifying.
Also fish monsters. Also fish people.
What kind of... why do you... your face, it's,
Oh, so you're here to attack me just because I look different to you?
Also ape people.
Ape people.
Please forgive the question, but I've never met a man quite like you before.
That's because no man measures up to the Throgmorton lineage.
And just mean people.
Yeah, and spooky visions.
Yeah.
And like carcasses all over the floor, like whale carcasses and shark carcasses and giant octopus carcasses.
Car carcasses.
A few carcasses.
Like a dead
Carcasses.
Carcass.
Yep.
But the so you play as this guy who is an ex-Navy diver
Yes.
who is having these like visions.
Yeah, he was in a terrible accident with his buddies, and they all died, and he survived. And I think he's got a bit of survivor's guilt. But also, I think probably Cthulhu smashed his ship.
Glad he said ship there. Cthulhu
Yeah.
wrecked his ship.
Yeah, absolutely destroyed his ship.
So he goes to this creepy Lovecraft town to try and figure out what's going
Because the
on.
visions have led him there, and as predicted, everyone's a bit weird. But I wasn't really ready for quite how weird they are, because the first time you meet the ape guy, you're like, wow, he's got a
really unique face.
You took that guy, he's like, he stands out from the crowd. What he didn't say was he has a giant ape face. He looks like Beast from the X-Men.
Oh, he does a bit, yeah.
Yeah.
He's got that sort of flat, like a big cat.
Yeah,
as well.
and the big mutton chops.
Yeah, maybe it's the
and-
mutton chops I'm thinking of.
And then just when you
Greedy
think,
weepers.
just when you think you've gotten used to that kind of weird face, then you meet the fish guy.
If he'd listened to me, we'd all still be alive.
Come on, Lewis. Focus.
Yeah, he looks a bit like one of those underwater blobfish.
Yeah, exactly, with
It's
the big
all
showed
like-
mouth and
yeah.
like little pointy
Or
teeth.
like a slightly melting jelly.
Perhaps I can offer something to grease your grinds.
I wouldn't describe the game as scary, like a horror game. It's just sort of more relentlessly weird and unsettling.
Yes, yeah. I think it does a good job, right? These are the guys who made the Sherlock Holmes games before.
Frogwares.
Right,
Yeah.
and I found the Sherlock Holmes games entertaining, but they were never, like, good.
No.
Whereas this seems a lot more sort of atmospheric, a lot more kind of competent. The vocal performances seem like decent compared to the weird like shine your shoes, Gavner, Cockney nonsense from the Sherlock games.
Yeah.
It definitely feels like a more accomplished production. I don't know whether it's necessarily a great game, but I enjoyed what we played of it.
Yeah, it's more of the same kind of gameplay, so it's very much a detective game. And it's open world as well, which I don't think those Sherlock Holmes games were.
Not so much. I think they had like sort of openish areas, but I don't think this is an entire city which you can get about via boats, through the flooded parts, or on foot, essentially.
Yeah, and it doesn't really hold your hand that much. It sort of tells you whereabouts you sort of need to go next, and then you have to go and investigate things. But when you get clues, you have to sort of link them together in your mind palace, and you have to decide which bits of evidence that you found relate to each other, and they form sort of conclusions, and then you link conclusions together, and then you have to make a final decision yourself on what you think that evidence means. And you can get it wrong.
That's
which is
what I find, really tantalising about it, like the idea that potentially, you could end up just drawing completely the wrong conclusions, and that might completely change the investigation. Also, we had a big choice to make. Like when we solved a murder early in the game, we had the option to kind of lie about it to the guy's father, ape guy.
I tracked the murderer down, but he was attacked by those things prowling the back alleys. And they tore him apart.
Yeah. Ape Junior, Donkey Kong Jr.
Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr. are the main characters.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was quite interesting as well. I like the idea of branching storylines and stuff, and it kind of remains. You'd have to play it for a fair few hours to see whether those have a sort of lasting effect on the story. But you get the feeling that, and I think they did it a bit in the last Sherlock Holmes game, the idea that you could draw the wrong conclusions entirely, but it will make it look like you've got them right.
Yeah, well, at least like you won't know for sure either way if you've got it right or wrong, which is interesting. I've seen some reviews of this which say that it kind of boils it down quite a lot in that it's like you can either decide someone is 100% good or someone is 100% bad, and it's quite like cut and dried, so it's not as nuanced as it might be in this sort of scenario. But it's interesting, and I think there is a real lack of decent detective games around at the moment, because I really like a detective game. And some of the gameplay in it really reminds me of the Return of the Obra Dinn, which is a game I really enjoyed recently, where you have to piece together how people died by watching sort of echoes of the past, which is a really nice mechanic.
Burn it all. Make sure you get the adverts.
Time to figure this out.
Yeah, it works really well, and I think we played a bit of the Call of Cthulhu game that came out sort of late last year, and although that was again sort of ostensibly a kind of detective game, you definitely felt like you were kind of railroaded through that. There was always like a sort of sequence of things you had to click on almost. Whereas this does feel a little bit more open, a bit more flexible. It feels like there's a lot going on at the same time, and like you, I kind of like a good detective game, but I would quite happily play a Lovecraft game, whereas I wouldn't be that bothered about a Sherlock Holmes game.
In terms of it being a Lovecraftian game, you do have a sanity meter, which gets affected by seeing horrible things, but it didn't really seem to affect the gameplay all that much. Like, we got a very low sanity meter at one point, and we just sort of got some slightly odd visual effects.
It did go dark, didn't it? It kind of
everything
became
went dark.
More difficult to sort of
there was a tentacle that was able to do actual physical damage to us.
Yes, that's true.
But I don't think it really it wasn't like Eternal Darkness or anything like that, where it had sort of major effect on the gameplay, which is a little disappointing. You'd hope that stuff would have more of a significant effect on how you play the game.
You want the sanity thing in any kind of Lovecraftian game to be something that's kind of across the entire story arc, kind of a long, slow descent into madness.
That was the case in that Cthulhu game from the end of last year, and it was like there's no way to regain sanity when you lose it. Whereas in this, it's a bar.
It was going up and down, It was like a graphic equalizer on an old hi-fi, but yeah, I guess it does it its own way and things. But yeah, I do prefer a kind of the idea that it's much less of a kind of I've gone temporarily a bit mad, and more of a deep existential panic over the course of several hours,
where you can't sort of trust what's real and what isn't. But the combat as well seemed like a little ropey to me. Like
it's not really their strong suit in terms of the Sherlock Holmes games never really had any combat at all.
I don't think it's the most sort of incredible blow-away game I've ever seen. It's these kind of frogware detective games. They're good fun if you've got nothing else pressing on, and you do get quite a lot of satisfaction from figuring out a mystery. And there are so many in this game. Like there's so many different cases, and like we came out of our room and there were like 30 different letters from people saying, please investigate this thing.
Yeah.
And like, I think all of them feed into the bigger mystery that you're trying to solve. So I think it's probably quite satisfying progression to go through and solve all these little mysteries around town, like helping people and figuring stuff out. Yeah, like I say, this is Frogwares games like this. They're fun little diversions if that's the sort of thing you're into, and like the Cthulhu layer on top of it is just nice for anyone who's into that kind of cosmic horror.
I think that's it. It's one of those things where, you know, if you're sort of into the theming, there's definitely like a reason to take a look at it, and it is atmospheric. And you know, when you arrive on the docks, it's got a certain kind of vibe and atmosphere. But then when you head into the sort of more populated areas of the city, and it's quite a big city, and quite, you know, it's not some tiny like windswept seaside town. It's a big functioning city, which also makes it kind of even weirder that this place is not on any maps apparently, and really difficult to find and all this kind of stuff, but it's full of people and it's supposed to be this sort of functioning city. So really interesting stuff. I think I'll play a bit more of it and see where the story goes, but it's not I don't think it's gonna be on any Game of the Year lists.
No.
I expect my guests to be respectable. Moans, chanting, all that kind of thing. It stops, all right?
Can you hear that, Mike?
Yes.
Do you think it's rats in the walls?
It might be.
I mean, it sounds
it might be a lobster wearing a rat, a hermit crab wearing a rat.
Yeah. Okay, well, it's all taken a bit of a Lovecraftian turn here in the studio, so...
Better go.
Yeah, probably. And instead of Pokeballs, you have magic wands, and I've decided that mine is an ebony wand with a core of dragon...
Oh my god! It's telling me I have to wait half an hour to regenerate my spell power. Do you have the corporate credit card?
No, Mike won't let me add it.
Oh, now I have to wait like a chump for my spell power to regenerate.
We could read some comments in the meantime.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, good. All right, Andy, then. Tell me about Disneyland Star Wars Galaxy's Edge.
Oh, man, it's
or
great.
Star Wars Land. Let's call it Star
Star
Wars
Wars
Land.
I mean, you can call it
We all
Galaxy's
know what
Edge
we're
all
really
you want.
talking about.
So we're going to start off talking about Show of the Week, the most recent episode, which was,
Not that
I
recent.
estimate, in 1920.
5 years ago. Oh, yeah. No, that sounds right.
I think we were talking about the new
Some time ago,
horseless characters they have these
It
days.
was before E3.
Yeah.
And the game of the week was Cup and Ball.
Yeah, Hoop and a Stick is out this week. So,
Man, it's been a long time. E3 gets longer every year because there's the core days of the actual trade show. Sorry to get like inside
baseball.
And then there's the conferences that take place before the show.
Yeah.
And then of course there's the inevitable team building essential day at Disneyland that comes before all of that.
Best part of E3.
Speaking of which.
Yeah, speaking of which, we have a comment here from commenter Nikki Knifestab, very on Disney brand, saying, I identify with Jane being all cynical about Disney until I'm there, and then I'm like, oh sweet Jesus, it's Goofy, I must hug him. The Disney magic there.
Yeah.
Goofy. Do you remember that, being all cynical about, you were like, oh, Galaxy's Edge is bad, and then when you got there, you were like, it's the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, it was partly that, and partly what I like to call being performatively cynical or a jerk to Andy, because it's funny.
Sure, it's funny. It's funny.
I'm sorry, am I spoiling the magic of
Spoiling
Disney?
the magic of Disney Transmedia for me.
I'm sorry, Andy. I know you personally. You love Disney Transmedia.
I do.
And Disneyland. You're one of those adults that loves Disneyland.
Yeah. What? Yeah, and you spell Disney with like a dollar sign instead of the S, and a euro sign instead of the E,
Yeah.
and a yen sign instead of the Y.
Sure.
Disney, more like the dollar sign N euro
That's
yen.
me. That's exactly
Every
me.
conversation
It's uncanny.
about Disney. She said it to the
But
cashier
when you're
while we were buying
actually
the tickets.
there, in the thick of it,
And you
in
see a
the
real
Disney magic,
full-size Millennium Falcon. I will stop talking about Galaxy's Edge soon, but it's a real Falcon.
They do some great work. It is extremely immersive and magical.
Yeah, we had a good time. There's a vlog on Outside Extra if
Right.
you want to see our good time. If that doesn't sound like something that would enrage and infuriate you, you can watch that. I'll put a link up here, and you can check that out.
What are we going to do next?
We're going to go in there, and we're going to meet Captain Kirk.
Speaking of the Millennium Falcon, we got a question about the actual mechanics of the ride from commenter Arkine. If Han is doing all the up and down movements and Chewie is doing the left and right, who's doing the barrel rolls?
What a great question.
They've divided the pilots. There's a left and a right pilot, and the left pilot does it's the left and right and then the up and down pilot is on it, which seems like a very bad way of dividing.
When we were on it, Mike
piloting
was the
of
up-down pilot and I
Yeah.
was the left-right pilot.
Yeah, which it seems to me like a bad way of controlling a spaceship.
And then Mike had
Anyway.
the punch it, let's go to jump to hyperspace kind of.
Yeah,
Right?
you were given the choice
I had
of
buttons.
having that, but you chose.
Really?
Yeah, they were like, do you want to go on the right? And you wanted to be the main pilot because it's actually the co-pilot who pulls the hyperspace lever. So
Right.
you were Han.
Yeah.
Mike was Chewie.
I was worried about invert look. That I might get into my own head about invert look. If they're like, do you want to be up-down pilot? I'm like, oh no, invert look. Will it be regular? Will they let me invert the look?
Yeah, can I go
this
into a
Disney
sub-menu
ride?
and invert
Can I
look?
go options, non-invert look?
But yeah, it was, you were Han, Mike was Chewie, I
Correct.
was unnamed engineer.
The famous engineer aboard the
you
Millennium
know,
Falcon.
old Zip Fasto,
Yeah.
the plucky
Yeah,
engineer.
so there's 2 engineers and 2 gunners, right? So.
Yeah, although, the gunner should be in a different... Anyway, it doesn't matter. It
Anyway,
doesn't...
who does the barrel rolls?
Who does the barrel? I guess you'd have to...
The ship does its own barrel rolls.
Yeah, it
the
does-
ship is like semi-sentient, as we all know.
Yeah, it's got the robot in it from
Yeah.
the Lando's in
Yeah,
love with.
so we've retrofitted the barrel rolling power.
Phoebe Waller-Cates.
Yeah.
She's in charge of the barrel roll.
Just a random barrel roll here and there.
She's in the ride, in the walls. If you knock on it, she'll knock back.
Jedi Fallen Order is the new Star Wars game from Titanfall developer Respawn. The game casts you as Cal Kestis, a Padawan who survived the Jedi destroying Order 66, not to be confused with Order 65, which is a cheeseburger and a large Coke.
So that was Jedi Fallen Order. We saw a demo of that at E3. What did you think of it?
I thought that...
The arms and legs should have come off.
That was a
Agreed.
popular comment on our videos about Jedi Fallen Order. It's
People like, where's the
those
dismemberment?
cowards. A
can't
lightsaber
believe-
should chop people's arms and legs off.
I can't believe in this Disney game you can't dismember
In
people.
which you play an ostensibly good guy, you can't chop off the arms and legs of hundreds and hundreds of humans and humanoids.
I mean, they were like, oh, your character, Cal Kestis. There's no like light or dark side decision. He's a good guy. And then they cut to gameplay where he's like impaling people through the face with his lightsaber.
So you think that for the optics of that, they didn't want to...
I mean, it's already pretty bad. I
They
think
didn't
the
want to
limbs
create the
coming off
dissonance
would
of
be...
like actual dismemberment.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean,
Because
there is a certain amount of dismemberment in Star Wars, but it's always in a very it's meaningful. Like when someone has their hand cut off, it's important
Symbolic.
story,
Yeah.
not like la 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 la.
yeah, it's
hand,
not
hand,
like
hand.
just twirling your way through it. Just like,
So maybe
arms and
there's
legs.
going to be a significant dismemberment at some point in the game, and they didn't want to undermine that with constant dismemberment throughout the rest of the game.
I mean, it's a real hot button topic, dismemberment in the Star Wars
But-
universe.
Coming back to Jedi Fallen Order itself, I feel like there was a kind of Luke, get it? Warm response to
Like Skywalker.
the game. I don't know that it did itself too many favours with the specific demo it chose,
Yeah,
which was fine.
it was like Uncharted. Whereas
Yeah,
I don't think
exactly.
that the actual finished game is going to be super like that.
Well, there wasn't.
That's the impression I got.
It's a little, again, inside baseball, but I feel like they could have gone with something a bit more kind of wow and spectacular. And I don't know, maybe they're like, we want to be honest and authentic. This is what the moment-to-moment gameplay of the game is going to be, which I thought looked fun and fine. But it wasn't that kind of E3 blow you away. I've never seen anything like this before, because you have sort of seen something like this before.
Yeah.
It's a Star Wars game by the people who did Titanfall. The wall-runny stuff looks a bit Titanfall-y.
I thought it looked good, and to be honest, I would prefer a demo of a game looking like it's going to look when I play it, rather than something incredibly flashy that isn't actually what the finished game is going
E3's
to
about,
be. It's all sizzle, no
traditionally
steak.
it's spectacle and
Wow.
wow factor. I'll play it. I'm into it.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely going to play it. We got a comment from Hilton Briscoe here who says, the perfect Star Wars game does not exist. If it did, it would be a mix of BioWare storytelling and Assassin's Creed sandbox and acrobatics, especially if it's going to be a Jedi-based game. Having said this, Fallen Order looks good, and I'm very enthusiastic about it being the first non-multiplayer Star Wars game in about 2,000 years. I don't think it's been 2,000 years
it has.
since
It's
it came out in
literally
20.
2,000 years.
Came out in the year 20. 19 and 20. Span
It sounds like they're talking about Knights of the Old Republic a little bit.
Yeah, I mean,
but
that's
we've
a game that
added
exists.
parkour. If we could,
Yeah.
patch it with some free roaming parkour.
I really liked The Force Unleashed. I thought that was an excellent game, apart from some very specific moments.
Right.
But yes, and also I think probably I've said this before, but my favourite Star Wars game is TIE Fighter, which is a space combat game. So if you could have the Jedi bits of Force Unleashed, and then you get into like a TIE Fighter or a TIE Interceptor or something, and you go into space and then you do the space combat stuff there, that's, for me, would be the perfect Star Wars game. But then, you know, it depends on people's tastes, I guess. And it looks like, I mean, I get what they're going for with Fallen Order, which is a kind of big budget, Uncharted style action game. That's got a bit of kind of Metroidvania exploration stuff in it, which, you know, I'm fully here for. I still am hyped for it after E3, whereas I think like some people have cooled off on it.
I think it's really going to, for some people, for players like me perhaps, going to live or die according to how well it's written. And they didn't actually put a lot of that kind of story stuff in the E3 presentation. You didn't see a lot of cutscenes, you didn't see a lot of interaction between characters.
Yeah.
And we don't really have the measure of this like Cal Kestis yet. You know what he looks like, you don't really have a feel for him as a character. And we actually did see a slightly longer expanded demo behind the scenes that they haven't yet released in its entirety, and it had a teeny bit more of that kind of character stuff, that, you know, kind of world building-y, talky stuff. And I think that's going to be really important, because the selling point for a lot of people is going to be it's a single player, story-based Star Wars game, but we didn't see a lot of that story goodness at E3, and if it's well written and charming and funny, which it has the potential to be, then I think that's going to be a really enjoyable time. It's not that it's underwhelming, but it's not going to set the world on fire mechanically. You know, it's not going to do something with, you know, Jedi powers and lightsabers that you've never ever seen before.
That's what Force Unleashed did with the whole like being able to pick up stormtroopers and move them around with the Force. I'd never seen that before, and it was endlessly entertaining. Just chucking them around.
And if it can do that competently, then hopefully you'll enjoy it in the same way that maybe you enjoyed the Force Unleashed. But it's not a game that's inventing anything brand new as far as we can see.
Yeah.
So I think it's really going to turn on whether you enjoy those characters and that story, and that remains to be seen. But I'm here for it. Like I will play a single player game to get that story out of it.
I did like that little moment when you're talking to Forrest Whitaker at the start, and he's like, "We need you," and he goes off, and Cal talks to his droid, and he's like, "Do you hear that?
You hear that? He said he needs my help."
He said they need me.
Yeah.
He's like seems kind of like a little bit insecure, and he's like really sort of keen and eager, which I like.
Yeah. Maybe a little bit naive and hopeful.
Yeah.
A little bit more Luke Skywalker-y, circa A New Hope, versus Starkiller, who was, you know,
he's a Sith apprentice.
Bit of a bad dude.
Yeah, which is another reason why you won't just be cutting everyone's arms and legs.
Coming back to that dismemberment theme again somehow.
Hello there. I'm happy to see you accepted my invitation.
Hello and welcome to Outside Xbox here at E3 2019, where Mike and I have just been witness to a Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 demo.
Next up, Jane, we're talking about something very dear to your heart, vampires.
Good,
Vampire
great.
the Masquerade Bloodlines.
I still remember it well.
Video you made where you were an awful jerk.
You mean Bloodlines 2, which is coming out in March 2020.
Yeah.
Excitingly.
Well, you were given the opportunity to guide a developer through a level of the game.
Yes.
They had to do whatever you said.
Yes.
And you told them, what did you
We
tell
decided
them?
to roleplay as the biggest a-hole possible.
Yes.
Biggest vampire jerk we could possibly be. So it was like being a backseat driver, but we were driving a vampire and the vampire was a jerk.
How did the developer take all of this? Were they happy about it?
But they were shocked in some cases. There was some fairly shocking violence and unpleasant behaviour. But also, it turns out that a lot of people will be polite and measured and role play in a reasonable way, you know, and doing the kind of things that they themselves might do if they were faced with that scenario. Whereas we played completely against type. Instead of being a sexy, seductive Toreador, we were this just completely abominable
irrational
thin blood. Yeah.
Jerk.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, well, let's have a comment. Clockwork Trilobite says, please tell me Jane and Mike will be giving us a full Masquerade Mondays playthrough the way Andy did with Red Dead. We need it.
Masquerade Mondays.
You want to play some
It's a very fine
original
idea.
Vampire the Masquerade?
Oh, I thought they meant Masquerade Mondays as in when Bloodlines 2 comes out.
Oh, no, I think
play
like,
it every Monday until we finished it, which is a great idea.
Well, like they were saying with Red Dead, we played through the original game to prepare for Red Dead 2 coming out. So we could play through Vampire the Masquerade
We certainly could.
to prepare for that coming out.
It is not a game that looks or feels very modern,
Yeah.
even
There
with
is
the patches and the community support.
Yeah.
But
Maybe
it
not
would
a whole
be fun.
maybe not a whole series. We could do like because I've not played it at all, so you guys could just give me a brief rundown, kind of get me
There's
ready for
nothing
the.
brief about Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, Andy.
So we could get it all
We're gonna
over
do
and
it,
done with in 20
play
minutes.
it in excruciating
I think I've got the idea,
depth.
Jane. You're a
No,
sexy vampire
some
who
of the good
sexily sexes around.
No, the good stuff is sprinkled throughout the journey. You've got to play it start to finish if you're going to play it at all, Andy. Give it its due respect.
Okay, rats. Time to earn your cheese.
Is that what I sound like when I'm talking about Red Dead Redemption?
I'm afraid so, Andy.
Oh, Jane, I'm so sorry. I can't
should
believe
be.
People at home, I would like to apologise unreservedly.
I'm Andy. Let's play Red Dead Redemption 1 for
All right, that's-
untold hours.
That's enough. That's fine. I've learned my lesson.
Well, I don't know. Maybe we could live stream it.
Yeah, that'd
Maybe
be
we
cool.
could live
You
stream.
want to see that? Let us know in the comments.
It is a long game. It's a significant investment.
It'll be a long live stream.
I would like to. Well,
30 hours. Who's up for it? No one. All right,
we could do
good.
a charity live stream. We could do a charity live stream that's
What's
like
the
a
world
blood drive.
Ah, yeah.
Like
We'll play for a certain number of hours, and the amount of hours we play for, Mike will donate that many pints of blood to a hospital.
Mike doesn't like needles.
We'll put it in a carrier bag or something. Just take it there.
Well, I thought we could raise funds for the National Blood
That would
Service
be nice.
or something.
Yeah, all right, cool. We'll definitely do something
Let's
with the
think
original Vampire
on
because
that.
I'd like to play it too.
Yeah.
All right, another question. Last Thursday says, cool, but can you Malkavian? Also, Blood Roomba is the best way anyone's described anything ever. So I'm a little unclear about this. Perhaps you can clear this up because you played it and I haven't. But as I understand it, you play the game as a Thin Blood who isn't part of a specific clan, but then later in the game you can join specific clans with their different powers.
You got it.
Okay, cool. I guess that's how.
There are 5 playable clans
Right.
that they have. They've announced them all. They're going to be 5 playable clans. They may add more clans later. They've
Right.
said they will be available as like a free update, so it's not like a purchasable expansion or what
Yeah.
have you. But one of the 5 playable clans they have announced is the Malkavian
And
clan.
which ones are those?
The Malkavian clan are the kind of mystically insane vampires whose minds have been turned by the dark gift of vampirism.
Okay.
And so they have they're sort of mystically paranoid and they hear whispers but it also is a gift and their powers include the they have Auspex, which means they can like see through walls, but also I think it's called like dementation or something like that, where they can drive other people mad.
Oh, okay.
To their own
They have like a
benefit.
madness aura.
Kind of, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, so that's the Malkavian, and I guess the most memorable thing about Malkavians in the last game, in Bloodlines 1, was that they experienced the world very differently. So if you're playing as the other clans, you see things basically the same, and you have different dialogue options according to what kind of person you are, maybe, or maybe not different dialogue options, but you have different strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're a Malkavian, say you see a road sign, and then you can start an argument with it.
Right.
Or you meet a friend that you knew as a human and they're like, oh my god, where have you been? I thought you were dead. What happened to you? And you can be like, I'm not your old friend, I'm the pet turtle you lost as a child. Because,
sounds
you're creepy and
amazing.
weird. It is a fun, weird clan to play.
That sounds like a really unique
It is
gameplay
unique.
mechanic.
It is extremely unique, and I'm really looking forward to what they do with it. I think they're going to
Okay.
go for. I think they've said they're going to go for a slightly less kind of full-on wacky vibe for the Malkavians, but you certainly experience reality differently through this kind of
That's interesting.
cracked mirror
Yeah.
of perception.
Okay.
Because your mind is a bit different.
Great. So yeah, in answer to your question, yes you can.
Yes, you can Malkavian. Look forward to it.
Finally, on this subject. Maddie Locke, referring to the dance that's in the video, says that dance is called tectonic. 'Tis an odd electronic dance, music dance step that rather eclectic people take part in. So it's a real dance that people do in sort of industrial goth clubs. I went on YouTube and I searched
you looked
for
it up.
And there are a lot of people dressed like Psycho Mantis
Nice.
from Metal Gear Solid doing that.
It does look, on reflection, very deliberate. It's not just a random flailing that some animator has come up with.
Yeah, there's a lot of that with your leg as well.
Yeah. And what they told us in the demo was that their animator very deliberately went and looked at the old game and said, how do I recreate this?
Yeah.
And then I think it was the animator themselves that mocapped the dance for Bloodlines 2. They're like, not only I can get this perfect, and they did get it perfect, as you can see in the video.
Yeah.
But it looks a little bit like, at least the arm part makes me think of, what's that Japanese dance that's kind of very precise?
Oh, the Macarena.
Yes, that's the Japanese dance craze.
But yeah, it's very cool they've brought that back. I think that was the one thing people were hoping.
That was the main thing.
Yeah.
Dancing was the main
Yeah.
thing. I mean, not to be quite so flippant about it, I think the idea of a nightclub and this kind of like cool simulated lifestyle of being sexy vampire is actually fundamentally important to the Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines experience. Yeah, so locations like nightclubs and other kind of cool vampire haunts are really important. So it was good to see it at the first, presumably, hopefully, of many kind of nightclub style spots in Bloodlines 2.
Anyway, your spell power is probably regenerated by now.
Oh yeah, right, exactly.
So
what am I doing talking to you when I can
we
be
could
playing
probably.
Wizards
Well,
Unite?
what am I doing talking to
Wasting
you? More
my
like the
time
real
when I've got
question here
spell power.
is wasting my time. Anyway, I have lots of important work to do around Hogwarts. So if you could just give me. Oh wait, there's a Cedric Diggory over there. Hang on.
My Cedric
Diggory. That's it for Show of the Week. Thanks for watching. But before you go, Mike, would you say I was more of an aura, a professor, or a magi zoologist?
What?
I mean, press the like button is what I meant to say. Aura though, right? Aura?
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
See, I see myself more as an aura for the following 17 reasons. 1, look good in a long coat. 2, hate evil, can't stand it, won't stand for any of it on my watch. 3, defense against the dark arts, always my favorite subject. And as a Slytherin,
17,
it's good to be, yes, sorry, this is still point 1. It's good as a Slytherin.
Okay, nice show. Time to order some lunch. Why has my credit card been declined?
Couldn't tell you, Mike.
Is that a silver wand?
It's platinum, actually.